I am your host, is Mr. Terrence Hollingsworth, investment advisor. Terry, are you there?
Hey, how are you doing, Dr. Ratliff?
I'm good, man. It was a wonderful day. How was your day?
It's good. I mean, this was a travel day for me, but overall is good. The market has been kind of flowing well for the last couple of days, and since last week, I wasn't on last week, but I'm on today. So let's
Yes,
do it.
sir. Yes, sir. I'm excited. I'm excited the market's slowly coming back as well. I'm equally excited about our guest tonight. His name is Dr. Lawrence McCall. Most of you out there in the audience, as I have either heard of Dr. McCall or know Dr. McCall. And so, just a little bit about Dr. McCall. Dr. Lawrence McCall, we call him Tabby in the neighborhood. um, he hails from Maywood. He has an associate's degree in criminal justice administration, a bachelor of science degree in criminal justice, a master's degree in management in criminal justice, and he has a doctorate degree in organizational leadership with an emphasis in organizational development at Grand Canyon University. He has other accolades, but he is also in law enforcement, as his pedigree shows. Been in law enforcement for over 2 decades. And Terry, I'm just excited to bring him on. I've known Tabby since our days growing up at Garfield Elementary School in the late 70s and early 80s.
Is he from that long line of proviso eat great athletes?
You know it, but he was pre before he was before the Three Amigos, although Michael Finley and Donnie Boyce also attended Garfield, Sherelle Ford joined later, the four and the Three Amigos. And there's another guy who in that long list of athletes, Jamal Robinson, who came in a year after them, as far as like their matriculation through Proviso East High School. But yeah, there's a long list that followed the Glenn Rivers and Doc Rivers, as they call him today, and Ricky Wilson's, and the list just goes on and on for, East traditions.
I know that you guys are going to talk about this, but what was it in Maywood that has created all of these professional athletes in a space where it just honestly was just tough to go to school every day?
There's that saying that it takes a village to raise a child. It is known as the Village of Maywood, and the entire village participated in everything that we did, and everything started at home, Terry. We had parents who cared about us. They provided us with a balance of love and discipline. We all, for the most part, were church going household where we went to church, vacation Bible school, Bible study, and the parents supported the kids. And if the basketball was a basketball game or a graduation or a play or a baseball game or a wrestling match, it was just a community. It was a middle class community. And this really came in large part after the white flight of the 1960s, the late 1960s, where many African American communities came from the South or the South Side of Chicago or other parts of the city and the country. And we just came together. We knew that we were all we had, as far as we as children and the parents, leading that path. So we always supported each other. All the schools from District 89, we converged. And by the time we got to Proviso East, it just created a dominant force in, as student athletes.
It's funny that you say that, and I don't know if this is looked at as good or bad, but when I moved there in '92 to go to Triton College, everyone was afraid because they had heard about Maywood, and
Yeah.
they were like, that's a rough area to be in. But
Yeah.
Maywood has always been good to me.
Well, I'm glad you said that. People have this notion that Maywood is this particular type of community, all bad or whatever. But history records that many great professionals and leaders came from Maywood. I mean, the list is too long for this show. If you just look back, even at the beginning of the 20th century, just see how many people have excelled, not just in sports, but academia, in entertainment, and so forth. Some names would surprise you. Who would have known that Ray Nitschke went to Proviso East? Randy, Papa Brewer went to Proviso East. I mean, the list goes on and on. It was just a community, and it is just a community. It's just going through a restructure, if you will.
Yeah. So before I hop off, we're meeting Thursday. Our master class is Thursdays at 5:30. What is it that we're going to be talking about?
Well, we're going to talk about the economy, how the economy impacts your willingness or hesitancy in investing. As African Americans, there's this reputation that we don't invest. We are not engaged in finance. So we're talking about the economic aspect. There were some questions about compound interest. What does compound interest mean, and how does that impact your ability to invest? And so we had great discussions last week. We had Evan from Pueblo Bakery in Maywood. He's one of our regular students in class, and so we're going to talk about that. And we need more people coming. This is a free class. I mean, it's 1 hour. Surely you could take an hour out of your day to attend this free investment class. There's so much information out there. Not all of it is good or correct. So we want to try to bring this information in a tangible way. And we hope that you'll join us this Thursday, I'm sorry.
All right. I am going to get out of y'all way so y'all can talk to Dr. McCall. Yes. And I will talk to you soon.
See you soon, bro. Dr. McCall.
On.
Welcome, my brother.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
One doctor to another doctor from Maywood. There's that question. Can anything good come from Maywood?
Yes, it did. Hey, it's a bunch of us out here.
Yep.
I put something together that I'm trying to. All of us that received our doctorates. I want to put some type of book together so we can go and talk about our passageway. How do we get from where we were to where we are now? And I think that's very interesting. It will.
That's a very poignant point that you're making. Because, as I was just telling Terry, a lot of great people came from Maywood and academia. We matriculated through higher academia and our spaces growing up in Maywood, but we were able to spread our wings into other communities. Right. And at the same time, give back to Maywood. We didn't just leave Maywood and not leave with some fruit.
Right. Exactly. The eyes are still on us. And I think that we as leaders need to always reach back, not really downward, but reach back and give a helping hand, and that's what the real leader does. And I think that we have the blueprint,
we do,
and the pedigree to do that.
Absolutely. Well said. And in honor of this discussion this evening, I got my Garfield purple.
Right.
I couldn't resist. Go Giants.
Right. Go Giants. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I have it in my heart.
Yes, sir. Always. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let's talk about you, man. Let's talk about, some of the decisions that you made in terms of getting into law enforcement. What was your motivation behind that? And then, what made you spread your wings to go to Texas, for example? Like, what was it that motivated Dr. McCall?
Okay. I'm originally my mother and father from Texas. Pulled out to Texas in Orange, Texas. So, and I had my family was in Maywood, and my dad went up there to visit his uncle, and his uncle told him that he needed him to come and help him, and without a hesitation, my mom and dad went to help him, and I think I was like 4 years old, and that's when I turned 5, I went to Garfield. And from that, I knew that I needed to continue my education. But, with both my parents being educators, it's kind of a no-brainer at one point.
Yes.
So sports kind of helped a lot of us, get through the turmoil that was going on within the city. It was a great city, especially when we grew up there.
Yes, sir.
It was always something to do. Before AAU and all these private camps that you have to go to, we went to Waterworks in Tim Park and
sir.
The park behind the police department and played each other. And we didn't have the people. We didn't have the people who was training us, but we paying $85 and $90 an hour to like we have to do here in Texas. But we played against each other. And the minute that Reggie did a better move than I did, I had to go home and practice that.
Right, exactly.
I had to go home. So next time I see Reggie, I'm gonna use that on him.
Absolutely.
Or whoever. So that was our competition.
Right.
We played in the snow.
Yeah.
We played in the heat and in the rain. I remember having to shovel snow to even play on the sidewalk and at the parks.
Yeah.
So that gave me that kind of propelled my sports career. And then I always wanted to play with the older guys,
right,
and just following their footprints, and just allowing them to teach me and show me. They was kind of heavy handed too, so
right.
I couldn't do nothing about it. But I really miss those days.
Yeah,
and from that I went to Proviso East and played football, basketball, and baseball there.
Yep.
With some great guys, and I got hit with Proposition 48.
Oh, not Prop 48.
Man, that Proposition 48 was something else. But I went to Triton, and actually I did pretty good. I was in who's who of American junior colleges for my academics.
Right.
But I didn't apply myself, during my younger years.
Yeah.
And I went there and played football and basketball, and I got a scholarship. But when I went away to school, I got hurt. My Achilles. I hurt my Achilles, and I couldn't. It's not the rehabs that they're doing now. Right. So I sat out for a while, and I kind of rehabbed on my own. And then I went to the United States Marines. And they call it the few, the proud, the Marines for a reason. Yeah. I wanted that uniform. Right. But I didn't know how hard it was to get that uniform. Right. I woke up my first night like, man, what did I get myself into?
Welcome, boot camp?
Boot camp, yes, sir. Yeah. But what did I get myself into? It wasn't the physical part that really bothered me, because I was still an athlete at the end of the day. Right. But I missed home. I missed going, to different functions that we had throughout our little city. I miss going to the rec.
Exactly.
I miss
the A&P.
Yeah. Where the Bumblebees was at, where we took over.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So I missed that. And from there, I came back home for a couple of weeks, not even a week or two. And a friend of mine went to Prairie View A&M University.
Sure, Texas.
And from there, I went down there to visit, and I called my mom and told her I wasn't coming back home.
Wow.
That's how you got to think about it though, Reg. I left from Maywood. Yeah. I go to the Marines where they tell you what to do all day, every day. Right. And I was in the infantry. I was in the grunts. So it was real. They told you when to eat, when to use the restroom, when to get up. Right. Till I go to Prairie View where everything was wide open.
Wow.
So that was a culture shock to me.
Yeah.
And from there, that's why I met my wife, and we ended up going back to Chicago, and from there I got on with the police department. But what happened was, while I was there, I was a victim of a violent carjacking.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, I had a BMW, and they put the guns to my head and took my car, man. And I was like, what am I gonna do? I'm a long way from home. Right. I didn't have any transportation, so I had to regroup, and I came home. Gotcha. And that's when I joined the police department. And I already knew half the people that was on the police department, because I went to school with them, or they was older than us. Right. And they was top heavy. Yeah. Meaning that they was in their positions 10, 11 years already. Right. They was already working, and I knew that my dad was sick by then. So I knew that they wanted to come back to Texas. Right. And I think I came down like a year before they did. So I got on with the Harris County, that's in Houston, the Harris County Sheriff Department. And I was a senior drill instructor for adult boot camp. Okay. For corrections, and that was right up my alley, because it was coming straight off the Marine Corps. Right. Ideology. Right. So from that was the best job, man. That I thought I could have at the time. And then I got recruited to come up to Dallas and be a director of safety and security for charter schools.
Okay.
And so again, with the education, with both my mom and dad being educators,
Yeah.
I thought I was getting in line with what I wanted to do.
Yes, sir.
I did that for close to 4 years, and law enforcement was in my blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got on with the police department, and I did that for probably about 2 years, and then again, I've been real blessed in my life, and I was recruited to go to another police department. I did that for 15 years. I'm sorry, 15 years, and I worked undercover for a long time. I did various things within that department. I made it to assistant commander of a task force, and from there I went on to be a police chief in a town close to Waco, Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was there for a little while, but the politics, I didn't fare well with the politics and what they wanted me to do.
Right.
I'm a cop's cop.
Right.
I get in the field, even though I have the experience. My aunt once told me that you can walk amongst kings and queens, but never lose the common touch. Meaning that, meaning that I could put on a suit and tie and go into a boardroom and talk data,
right?
Quantitative and qualitative.
There you go.
But
taking me back, man.
Right. Or I can go on the street and talk to the less fortunate.
Yeah.
So I believe that a cop needs to still have his own discretion when it comes down to law enforcement, and we'll definitely talk about that.
Yes. So let me ask you this question. So you've had quite the journey. You pointed some things out that those of us who grew up with you, we're not aware of, through the ups and downs. But here you are, still committed and that kind of thing. So I want to ask you this question. From your perspective, what are the similarities between Maywood that you grew up in and even the Texas communities that you were engaged in as it relates to being in law enforcement from that perspective? The similarities?
Yeah, they're very similar. I mean, there's nothing that was different. Growing up in Maywood and working the streets in Maywood in the Chicago area to Houston to they had, every city has a hood. No matter where you are. Right. Every city has a hood. I don't care if it's from the upper echelon to the poverty side. Right. They have a hood. And here in the Dallas area, well, you got to think about it. They got First 48 out here.
Oh, that's true.
So
there's always action.
Yeah.
So there's always some action. That's why they have the show.
Oh yeah, it's always something. And I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of those officers. And to see how they work, and a lot of things that's on the news that we see around the country, I was able to see firsthand. Some of the major incidents in America. I was able to see firsthand, especially the shooting of the officers. That was my building was right there.
Wow.
We really felt that pain that they was having.
I bet.
Yeah.
Prayer goes to their families as well.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you this question, kind of switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
You mentioned your parents being educators. Your dad was a science teacher at Garfield, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I remember, this is a story about your dad real quick. Your dad was really down to earth, brother. I mean, I'm not just saying that because he's your dad. Your dad was loved by those like myself who were looking for opportunity and those who were, trajectory was seen as going forward, like yourself, like Darwin Montana, Denard Wade, Randy McCall, and so forth. But I remember your dad telling me that regardless of what I do, I always put my best foot forward. And that time it was about baseball. I didn't make the basketball team, but he said, instead of saying you weren't good enough, he said, we had too many good guys. And I'm like, what? He said we had too many good guys. Not take that as a compliment, but he came to my baseball games when we played. Audience, Tabby in Little League was on First Federal. I was
Right.
on Robinson, like with Moses Green, who we interviewed a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
so there was a little bit of rivalry there. But even then, your dad came to the game. You know, he didn't say beat Reggie or beat Tabby. He was cheering because we both played for him for softball. You played for him for basketball, but we were still like his kids,
right?
You know, in the community, and that was very honorable. And he was an honorable man. He was also assistant basketball coach, right, for the '91 state championship team.
Right. You know what's ironic though, Reggie. I have a lot of people who still call me about him. You know, I try to post as much as I can about him because for one thing, he was my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
My daddy, but he was a father. He was a father to many.
Right, he was.
You know, a lot of people say, you know, my kids say, you know, we don't say daddy. I said, well, he was my daddy.
Right,
you know, but he was a father to many. You know, we can name a lot of people, but they know deep in their heart, you know, where he stood with them. You know, because he had them in the class, and he had them on the battlefield as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, and he really cared about you as a human being.
Right.
But you know what, Reggie, I'm gonna tell you something. We always thought my daddy was the leader and the backbone. But you know, after he passed, and the real leader was my mom.
Right. Yeah.
That's the strongest woman that I know, bro.
Yeah. She was a quiet leader. She didn't make a lot of fuss or anything. She was definitely there.
He was the rock.
Yeah.
But she was the boulder.
Right.
You know, she was the one, man. And I'm not saying that because of my mom, because when I was going through some things here, she stood strong. You know, I try to make it seem as though that I'm strong, but every so often the motivator has to be motivated.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
The leader has to be led sometimes. And you certain places that you get your leadership from, it's not the ones who you think gonna be your leader. Let me say that. You know, so she was the rock. And when you know, when I look back at it and found out that, you know, she was the one.
Yeah. Thank God for strong mothers like your mom. And, you know, that's what made our community so strong, right, Tabby? We had strong support system from our parents, and there were no nonsense. I mean, they loved us, they supported us, and they corrected us when we needed to be corrected, and they commended us and rewarded us when we earned it, not just given to us. We earned it.
Right.
And so, you know, clearly there's a difference between the Maywood of yesteryear and the Maywood of today. As a leader who is from Maywood, such as yourself, what kind of advice, as we start to close out our show, what kind of advice would you offer today's prospective leaders or aspirant leaders who are trying to matriculate through the halls of academia or trade school, or just trying to find a way, or maybe somebody who's going through troubled times because things aren't going their way? What kind of advice can you offer them?
Well, for one, never give up. Your dreams will come true if you be consistent and motivated. I believe that, you know, there's been times where you know, you think that you're not gonna make it. You can't do it. Just like writing the for the doctorate. You know, it's been years since I started, and I never thought I would see the light. But you know, the light is always there. You just got to keep going toward it. As far as leadership goes, it takes a strong, a great follower to even be just a good leader, and it takes the dedication to be able to lead. You have to follow someone, and you can't think that you know it all. Even in my position now, even though I'm in position to tell people what to do and how to do it, I ask them their opinions before I make a final decision. And I think that that's very important as far as leaders, because at the end of the day, I don't have to do the job. They have to do the job. But someone has to make the final decision. But continue to educate yourself, continue to believe, pray about it, and go forward. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up.
Wonderful advice. I wish we had more time. This was definitely a pleasure.
That's it.
We're winding it down, but as time allows, man, we'd like for you to come back.
Sure.
But Shirley, I thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule. It seems like you're at the station now.
Yeah, I'm always working, man. I'm always working.
Keep leading, man. Keep striving. Congratulations on that doctorate, and
thank you.
Much love to you and your family. And be safe and be blessed.
Same to you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. Sir. And I'm Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Thank you for tuning in. Terry, are you there as we close out our show?
Yeah, I'm here, Reg. It's nice to see Black men that come from these really tough neighborhoods to show that just because you start here don't mean you have to end there, right? I often say the journey of Black men in America and the journey of Black men going from being street guys to entrepreneurs to fathers, right? It's a tough journey. It is a journey that involves a lot of twists and turns, but at the end of the day, it's our journey, right?
Well, what's most motivating about Dr. McCall is the fact that a lot of people run away from law enforcement because Black men are harassed so often, and you see the news, everything that's happening, when these attacks by law enforcement against Black men. But Dr. McCall, he embraced law enforcement to correct law enforcement, to show that as a Black man, he is a leader to be respected. And so that's what I admire about him.
Hey, truth be told, I was a Prop 48 kid myself. The reason why I ended up in Chicago at Triton College in the first place.
Well, like to say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Absolutely.
So if you missed that first year because of Prop 48, guess what? You graduate in 4 years, you got that 4-year eligibility, you finish and you take that experience, you keep it moving, such as brothers like yourself and Tabby and thousands of others who may be in that situation today. But like Dr. McCall say, don't give up.
Absolutely. It's, over the years, I wish that there was for what I do now and who I was as a student in high school, totally not the same people. Right. I thought it was one way. But at the end of the day, the disciplines of, being good every day and being accountable and holding yourself to those standards, we learn them through sports. We don't always get it, connect those things in the classroom, but often for Black men, that is the journey. And our first exposure to that is sports often.
Absolutely. We use that as a vehicle, not a crutch. And if we use that in a positive way, then great things will happen. It will expand into our academic world and, our personal lives, our spiritual journeys, and our emotional challenges. It helps us overcome that. That's why I love playing sports growing up, man. You just can't beat it. And I grew up when Maywood was at its peak around 30,000. We were a community. And that's why I'm glad we have Let's Talk Maywood, because there are so many people doing great things. So that concludes our show, everyone. Again, thank you very much. I'm Dr. Reggie Ratliff. That's Terrence Houseworth. Have a blessed evening. Be safe.